What's up, guys? Thanks for tuning in. This is the Week 4 preview for the Marcus Mariota Fan Club Fantasy Football League. First off, special shout out, partners of the show, Cuddy Eats. Check it out. New video every Saturday. They're very entertaining. Highly recommend. He's a great dude. Check it out. Moving on. My goal is to keep these videos really short. I know my recap videos have been really, really long, and they're probably difficult to fit into your schedules. I want to keep this one kind of short. Before we jump into it, I want to thank Logan for pointing out some errors in some of my previous episodes. Two of the games that he was involved in, I said that I picked someone that I actually didn't pick. Fortunately for me, they were actually reversed. So two of my losses were actually wins. So I had myself at 7-5. Turns out I'm actually 9-3, which is quite good. So doing really well. Looking like you guys are buying me dinner. I think if I reach like 800 instead of just 600 or whatever, the value of the dinner goes up a little bit. I think I've earned just a little bit better dinner. So anyways, moving on, previews. I'm going to try to keep my picks straight. We will see. Basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to talk about who's playing who. Then I'm going to go through each matchup and talk about what I like about somebody's roster, what I don't like about somebody's roster, give you my pick, and then move on. Keep it short and sweet. Maybe you guys can use some of this to inform decisions you make before Thursday night's game. So without further ado, let's jump into it. And let's get rid of my power rankings. Oh, no. And the record. All right. Anyways, so looking here, the first game is going to be me versus Clint. Next game is Jonathan versus Logan. Both teams that have kind of underachieved in terms of record, but have actually put up respectable points. Jeremy versus Cole. Neither one of them have put up particularly strong points. Records are about the same. Thomas versus Blake. That's the battle of the top two teams in the power rankings. Really exciting fantasy matchup. Excited about that one this week. Daniel and Matt, two teams at the bottom of the power rankings, so who can kind of stay relevant moving forward. And then Brandon and Dustin playing each other. Again, another really good matchup. People are going to want to keep an eye on that one. So let's jump into the first game. So this is me versus Clint. Looking at my roster, kind of hosed a little bit in terms of bye weeks. Le'Veon Bell and George Kittle both being out. But Kenyon Drake, the Chargers' defenses looked a little soft. I think this is as good of a matchup as he's going to have all year. Really give me a good eye into what they're looking at. Winston against the Rams defense, I don't like it that much, but considering my team's hopes kind of go the way of Mike Evans, I have to leave him in there. Kyle Rudolph also don't like. The Vikings are running the ball a lot, and against Chicago, it's just not a very favorable matchup. But I do have some good things going on. Tyrell Williams against Indianapolis should be okay. Rams defense versus Tampa Bay. I hate playing a defense against my quarterback, but whatever. Justin Tucker should get some points against Cleveland. On my bench, there's not a whole lot to plug in. May wind up going with Josh Gordon or DK Metcalf or even Valdez-Scantling over Tyrell Williams, but I'm not 100% sure yet. Looking at Clint's team, Marcus Mariota, he's got to get on track, and we're all homers here, so this is the Marcus Mariota fan club after all. So I am really hoping that Marcus Mariota goes off, but I'm skeptical. David Montgomery, the Minnesota run defense has been somewhat stingy, even though they're not the best, so I don't really care for that. Mark Ingram should be fine. Smith-Schuster against Cincy should be fine. Thomas against Dallas. Dallas' defense has not been anything to sneeze at. However, I do think he'll get his targets. Njoku's on IR, so Clint needs to do something about that IR. D.D. Westbrook don't like it. Looking at his bench, though, because of the injuries and because Clint has not made moves on the wire, he doesn't have a whole lot of options. He can throw Tariq Cohen in there. He can throw Marvin Jones in there. But really just needs to do some work on his roster. He doesn't have a tight end at the moment, and the free agent options are not exciting. So for this one, I'm going to go with me in this matchup. We'll go on to game two. Game two is Jonathan and Logan. So looking at Jonathan's roster, I'm not going to go through every position like I just did in the last one. That's going to take too long. I want to get you guys in and out. Things to point out. Sucks kind of for Jonathan. Michael Gallup's hurt. Saquon Barkley's hurt. Mike Williams is questionable. I think he is going to play. And the matchup against Miami is obviously really, really good. Joe Mixon should get leaned on. Duke Johnson, don't like it. Russell Wilson, good matchup against Arizona. John's got some good matchups. Hopefully they can get something cooking. Looking over here at Logan's team, these matchups are actually pretty favorable. So Matt Ryan's not the best matchup. Tennessee's secondaries actually look really, really good. But DeAndre Hopkins, good matchup. Austin Eckler, good matchup. Scary information, though. Melvin Gordon is planning to report on Thursday, so this might be the last week where Eckler's kind of the guy, but we'll see how that all plays out. Terry McLaurin, great matchup against the Giants. Really just looking top to bottom at Logan's team. If T.Y. Hilton can go, I think his roster gets better. But either way, I think I'm going to go with Logan in this matchup. Game 3, we've got Cole versus Jeremy. Jeremy's team some things that I really like. Austin Hooper, tight ends match up, I think, pretty well against Tennessee's linebackers. Tennessee's linebackers really like to play run defense, so that should help. Running backs, though, I'm not sure that I feel super great about that. The Rams' defense is usually pretty good with their front seven. And Chris Carson, I don't think they're going to be running the ball too much against Arizona. Looking at the bench, I really like Larry Fitzgerald. I've been saying it over and over again. I don't know that you can put him in over Tyler Lockett and Marquise Brown, but I do think you can put him in maybe over Chris Carson or Peyton Barber. Looking at Cole's team, so Dak Prescott. So this is kind of a sidebar, but for one of my other videos, I'm looking at kind of breaking down Marcus Mariota's gameplay and why the Titans are giving up so many sacks. I don't think it's because of their offensive line. And in doing so, I was like, I'm pretty hard on Dak and the Cowboys and Logan. I'm going to take a look at how he plays. Looking at the time in the pocket, it's actually really similar to Marcus. And the first thing that stands out to me is Dak Prescott doesn't see ghosts, which is a pretty common thing people say about quarterbacks. And Marcus, you can see as soon as he drops back, he starts to step up in the pocket. And Dak Prescott doesn't do that. He lets the pocket develop around him, and he always keeps his eyes downfield, which is definitely something worth mentioning. So basically what I'm trying to say is Dak's actually looking really good right now. And the Saints defense, they have gotten a lot of pressure. They've been really good about pressuring the quarterback, but I think Dak should be able to handle it, especially with the run game taking a lot of that pressure off. I think Dak's going to have a good week. I think Derrick Henry's going to have a good week. Jack Doyle, the stage is kind of there for him to have a good week, but I'm just not sure how I feel about it. I actually think I would make a move for Damian Williams at the flex. I would probably put in Allen Robinson. I think that the matchup against Minnesota has been really good against the run, so I think Chicago's going to have to throw the ball downfield, and I think that's really favorable. But just looking at the starting rosters they're putting together, I do like Cole's team, so I'm going to go with Cole. Game 4. This is a really exciting one. Top 2 teams in the power rankings. Look at Thomas's team. So Chris Godwin was, I think, a limited participant in practice today. So that's definitely a concern. He's going to want to keep an eye on that. But he does have Calvin Ridley as a serviceable backup. So I think that he's okay in either way. I love the Demarcus Robinson inclusion. He's looked really, really strong with Tyreek Hill out. Love Greg Olsen. Love that pickup. Love that you put him into the lineup. Obviously had a big week last week. Hopefully he can continue that. Leonard Fournette has looked really concerning, so that's a area of concern. But overall, the roster looks really, really solid. And then if we go across the board to Blake, Deshaun Watson, Alvin Kamara, Dalvin Cook, all good matchups because I think they're going to try to avoid keeping Kirk Cousins under pressure from the Chicago front line. So I do think they'll run the ball and keep it on the ground a lot. So Dalvin Cook, good matchup. Julian Edelman, I think Buffalo is kind of a trap game for New England, but we'll see how it works out. This is the matchup to watch, I think. Sammy Watkins versus Demarcus Robinson. Which Kansas City receiver puts up the most points against Detroit? Looking at the rosters top to bottom, I do think they're actually really, really similar. I am going to give the edge to Blake because of this right here. Dalvin Cook versus Leonard Fournette. I think Dalvin Cook gets the nod, so I'm going to go with Blake. So then, looking at Game 5, we got Daniel versus Matt. I think Matt's team looks scary in a bad way. Todd Gurley, we just don't know what we've got there. Jarvis Landry just can't get anything going. Cleveland's got a lot of problems. Zach Ertz, not seeing quite as many targets as he has in the past. Philadelphia just not swinging it around like you would expect them to. And John Brown, as much as I want him to succeed, he's just not as talented as some of the other players in fantasy football. Still a lot of interesting decisions on who you're going to keep. Doug Martin is not currently on an NFL roster. Might want to move on. Tyree Jackson, don't think we're going to see him at all, probably. So I'd probably move on from that one as well. So Matt's roster's got a lot of concerns. If we go across the board to Daniel, Justin Jackson, don't know how much he'll see the field. Chris Thompson, it really looks like AP is going to steal a lot of those carries. Curtis Samuel and DJ Moore, even if Kyle Allen looks somewhat serviceable, now you got J.J. Watt on the other side. The Texans' defense is not completely trash, even though I do like the Delaney Walker matchup against Atlanta. Good news for Daniel. Melvin Gordon reporting in. Won't be there this week, but should be next week. So that's good. I like the Andrew Luck inclusion, but you might want to move on. You just need to make some good acquisitions to make your team better moving forward. Not that it's bad. But looking at the roster, top to bottom, definitely going to go with Daniel here over Matt. Definitely go with Daniel. And the last matchup, another really, really strong matchup between two strong teams, Brandon and Dustin. I love the Lamar Jackson matchup against Cleveland. I mean, Marcus Mariota looked really good against Cleveland, and Lamar Jackson does everything he does better. So that's always encouraging. Aaron Rodgers versus Philly is not an overly concerning matchup for Dustin, but Aaron Rodgers hasn't looked like the Aaron Rodgers of old, so hopefully that gets better. Running backs, Ezekiel Elliott and James Conner are better than Josh Jacobs and Nick Chubb, even though James Conner has been somewhat disappointing. Keenan Allen and Julio Jones, that's a wash for me. This is really the one that we're interested in. Brandon Cooks, Robert Woods. Which Rams receiver gets theirs this week, and how does that affect this fantasy matchup? Especially because right here at the flex. So I actually don't know that Brandon's going to wind up rolling with Tyler Boyd. I think that he maybe plugs in DJ Chark, who has looked really, really good, and who I think Gardner Minshew is going to continue to rely on because they do have some chemistry with one another. And if he makes that change, I think that's a lot better than some of the flex options that Dustin has, even though Sterling Shepard is not a bad choice. Vikings defense against Chicago, I like that better than the Packers D, and the kickers are kind of a wash. So this is a really, really tough one. I am going to say that I'm going to go with Brandon because I think James Conner is eventually going to get things going, and I do think that DJ Chark is going to be the move at flex, and I think that he'll have a decent week. So I'm going to go with Brandon here. So if we go back to the scoreboard, just to do a little recap really quickly, I took me over Clint. I took Logan over Jonathan, took Cole over Jeremy, I took Blake over Thomas, I took Daniel over Matt, and finally I took Brandon over Dustin. Again, most of these matchups I do think are going to be close, but I think it'll be really, really fun to watch. So, thanks for tuning in. Keep me honest with my picks. Make sure I don't screw them up. Logan, I appreciate it so far. Excited about what Week 4 has in store. And yeah, just give me feedback, subscribe, like, share the video, and we'll see you guys next week.